in an attempt to find new ways of cooperation and exchanges between Japan and Czech Republic. So thank you very much. Thank you very much for your welcome. Thank you very much for your hospitality, and I'm very much looking forward to the discussion today. Thank you.
Děkuji za projevy a nyní můžeme začít s diskuzí. Některé otázky máme připravené, ale i vy budete mít v závěru čas se zeptat na dotazy, které vás zajímají. Takže první otázka. Vaše excelence, ráda bych se zeptala na váš názor ohledně globální situace. Po ruské anexi na Ukrajinu byla porušena řada mezinárodních smluv a zdá se, že diplomatická jednání ztratily sílu. Myslíte si, že diplomacie jako taková bude chováním Ruské federace poškozena?
Thank you very much for your very timely question. Every conflict, whatever it is, should end with diplomatic negotiations. It was every time the case. Look, for First World War, Second World War, every war will be ended by a peace treaty. And its negotiations, its diplomacy. So, of course, I think the war in Ukraine would not be an exception. I think that at the end of the day, this war should end with diplomacy so that we can design the post-war future of the European security and the global security as a whole. But the timing is a question. Can we envisage now that we go straight forward to diplomatic negotiations? Maybe not. Maybe not, because we see Mr. Putin is not at all ready for that. He has once again threatened the use of nuclear weapons. He's very tough. He seems very self-confident. Whether he is very true to himself or not, I don't know. But he is not at all ready to end the war and go into some peace negotiations. So I think that the timing is maybe not now. I think that we have to make Russia understand that they have to end the war that they have illegally initiated, and that is our task to show through diplomacy between partners and like-minded nations, allies, to consolidate a consensus between nations globally, to put pressure on Russia to end the war. This is where diplomacy will work, and we are working on that. Recently, in Indo-Pacific, we had 2 or 3 very important conferences. Maybe you have heard G20, APEC, or East Asia Summit. At every occasion, we have deployed our full diplomacy to rally as much as countries so that we come up with a joint declaration demonstrating that Russia should end the war. And this war in Ukraine is something that is unacceptable. I think it was a good achievement, and this is where diplomacy is working. And I think at the end of the day, it will bring us a favorable situation where Russia will be convinced that they have no chance to win the war and finally concede to have real goals. I would say real goals to end the war and to construct the future of Europe and the international community as a whole. Thank you.
Dobrá, děkujeme. Tak a po tomto těžším tématu nějaká jednodušší otázka. Myslím si, že skoro každý si představí práci velvyslance pouze jako reprezentanta. Jak ale vypadá denní program velvyslance a jeho povinnosti?
Representation is a very important function. It's not just in kind of ceremony or etc. It's very important to connect people. Connect people who come from different areas of the society and to make kind of join the kind of feelings and emotions which will be a new driver to make things move. So representation is not just representation, but I would say that function ambassadors is first of all really connecting people, and I think today's event is really something that is connecting people. And I'm representing Japan, so I'm here on behalf of the Japanese people. I'm talking with having in mind all the feelings, all the sentiments and the thinking of the Japanese government, the Japanese people. So I'm connecting here, so to say, you and the Japanese people. So this is, I think, the most important function. And second, I would say, to find a way through this connection of people, find a way to open new ways of cooperation. I think that between Japan and Czech Republic, as David said, we have a long tradition of industrial cooperation. Japan is the first investor after Germany in Czech Republic. There are a lot of big Japanese companies operating in Czech Republic, like Toyota, Panasonic, Daikin, and some others. That you have, I'm sure you have heard the names. So, economic and industrial cooperation has been a long tradition, but maybe we have other areas that we should cooperate more, like in terms of political cooperation, exchange of politicians, or more dialogue on security issues, so that our relations become thicker, become more multi-layered. And the more we understand each other in different areas, the more I think the world becomes safer. So this is I think for me, at least for me, one of the most important functions of being ambassador, and I'm very honored to do this.
Pane velvyslanče, během vašeho kariérního života jste působil na mnoha různých velvyslanectví. Čím je působení v České republice specifické?
As you said, I have been posted in different countries around the world. They're very much different, very specific, and each country has its own charm and specificity. I think for the Czech Republic, it's, for me, especially personally, for me, the history of the Czech Republic is something that I highly respect and enjoy during my stay. You have a very long tradition of history. You are one of the oldest nations in Europe. And also you are at the heart of Europe, very heart of Europe. And when there is some big event in Europe, you're always involved. You were the first in the religious reform in Europe. Marcel Proust has initiated this big wave of religious reform in Europe, and this struggle has really transformed the face of European society and European politics, followed by the 30 Years' War, ending by the Treaty of Westphalia. Again, diplomacy, by the way. And the Treaty of Westphalia has shaped the political system of Europe afterwards. You are also, during the Napoleonic War, at the forefront of the kind of conflict between Austria-Hungary Empire and the French Empire. And one of the biggest battles between these two powers occurred in Czech Republic near Brno, the Slavkov and the Battle of Austerlitz. Later on, of course, you have experienced the tragic history of 1968 that demonstrated the kind of the real face of communism. And this has changed a lot. You were also, it's in Czech Republic that the end of the Cold War has taken roots. The relentless work of the late President Václav Havel was really the driving force for all the revolution that changed completely the Europe and has demolished the Iron Curtain and even the Berlin Wall. I was very impressed when I visited the garden of the German embassy in Prague, where the citizens of East Germany have found refuge in their way for freedom in the West. So Czech Republic has always been the theater of dramatic change in Europe and in the world. So this is, I think, the very much specificity of my posting here. This is what I'm enjoying, and this is something that I feel very honored to serve my country in Czech Republic.
Takže další otázka. Jaký si myslíte, že je největší rozdíl mezi Japonci a Čechy?
Different thing, the difference, it's hard to say, because we have, as I said all the time, we have so much in common. So I see more of the similarity than differences. But if you allow me to say, maybe the Czech people are more spontaneous and more instinctive than the Japanese. I think that the Japanese try to be go through a lot of reflections and internal reflections, which is not a bad thing. But well, sometimes it's, especially in the modern world, with this very kind of quick connection world and internet and digital, etc. We have to be more spontaneous and sometimes instinctive, like the Czech people. So I think that we have a lot of things that we have to learn from you. And let's say, for example, this youth parliament is a very valuable initiative. To feel the atmosphere, and that for that you have really to move physically. And I think that unfortunately during the past 2 years it was not possible because of the COVID. Now is the time to really to resume these kind of exchanges. You have a lot of opportunities, like student the books. We have a lot of ways of having the government grants to study in Japan. We have to, but of course, we have to explore a more and more creative way to have changes. And I think that after this event, or through this event, we could discuss what is your aspiration, what we want to do, and discuss how we can achieve that.
Děkujeme. A teď opět jedna těžší otázka. Česká republika aktuálně modernizuje svou armádu a bezpečnostní složky. Je možné, aby se Japonsko zúčastnilo výběrových řízení na nákup buď armádní či strategické techniky? Ptám se hlavně z důvodu vaší velmi profesionalizované armády a moderní techniky, kterou Japonsko disponuje.
Yes. We traditionally were rather cautious for exporting our defense equipment overseas. But this is changing. We have concluded several agreements with Indo-Pacific countries like Vietnam, Indonesia, and some others that we allow Japan to provide defense equipment. And so it's starting. We have recently provided the Philippines with electronic radar system. And I think this case of export will increase. We are very good in radar system, we are very good in military cargo airplanes like C2. We are also good in military vehicles. There are several pillars of excellence. And I think that in the future, this kind of defense equipment cooperation is possible between Japan and Czech Republic. Recently, we have participated in defense equipment exhibition that took place in Paris. I think it was in July or August, sometime in summer this year. I think it was the first time. So it demonstrates a willingness of Japan to be a worldwide defense equipment player. Czech Republic is also a very, very advanced defense equipment industry country. You have Czechoslovakia, you have some airplanes, you have ammunition, you have also drones. So I think we are very much complementary, and we're pretty much sure that there is a possibility of cooperation in this area. By the way, the Czech army has already purchased 800 Toyota Hilux is replacing already the very old-fashioned kind of Soviet-type Jeeps. So it's a very kind of, it's going to modernize dramatically the logistics of the Czech army, and logistics is as much important as the frontline equipment like cannons or mortars. Without logistics, you cannot fight a war. So this is something that is already happening. So I think that starting from this, we can enlarge little by little the area of such a tender or cooperation.
Tak, další otázka. Co považujete za váš největší úspěch během vašeho působení v Praze?
Well, I think that my success, the biggest success is not meeting the president, meeting the prime minister, meeting the political people. I think my biggest success is that I traveled all around Czech Republic, even in a very deep, remote area in the countryside, and I was always very much warmly welcomed, and this showed really the traditional friendship between the two countries and the potential of further cooperation. I think this is an honor for me, really to be really so much welcome with warm-hearted people, being invited to local festivals, being really to taste the local goods and local customs. Like this morning, I had the opportunity to taste the bread and salt. This is the most fantastic, most kind of exciting experience as diplomat and ambassador.
A nestýská se vám po Japonsku? Jak často se během výkonu vaší funkce dostanete domů?
Well, of course, I love Japan, I love my country. So if I say, oh, I'm very much enjoying Czech Republic, I don't miss Japan at all, I'd be a very, very big lie. Something that I miss is what we call the onsen. The onsen is a hot spa. You have also spas in Czech Republic, Karlovy Vary, Marienské Lázně, etc., so many very famous sites of spa. But the way of enjoying spa is very much different in Japan. You have a big public bath filled with spa water, very hot water, 40, 45 degrees. You get with friends in this bath and you enjoy relaxing. Sometimes, maybe not recommended by doctors, but sometimes drinking Japanese sake, which is the traditional rice-made liquor. And some of these onsen, the spas, are located outside. And you can really enjoy the landscape, sometimes the snow mountains, taking a hot spa. It's wonderful. You have to experience that. And now it's maybe the season really to enjoy this kind of luxury. So this is something I miss, but I'm sure that you will understand if you go and experience.
A naše poslední otázka. Máte nějaký cíl, čeho chcete v rámci vaší funkce dosáhnout?
Well, I think that when I arrived in Czech Republic 2 years ago, I have imposed myself 3 objectives. One is establishing some sort of security dialogue between our defense authorities and our foreign ministries. Second is having more cooperation on new energy, because we were ready. It was before the war in Ukraine and all the energy crisis here that we experience now. But still, we had this challenge of climate change and net zero carbon. And this requires a lot of innovative technologies, and I thought that, and I think that there is a lot of room for cooperation. And 3 is enhancing intellectual exchanges. By intellectual exchanges, I mean exchanges between, of course, universities, but also think tanks, so that to create some kind of ecosystem of intellectual discussion about the things of the world, the challenges that we are commonly facing. So on these 3 objectives, I think that the most advancing is the third one, but I am still pursuing the first one, and the second one means security, cooperation, and cooperation on energy. And I think this one is even more relevant now that we have the hiking energy prices and how we can really be self-sufficient. And I think that we have, on this chapter, we have a very big commonality, and that we are both putting nuclear energy as one of the center pillars of our energy policy or energy mix. And I think that there is some way of cooperation, potential cooperation, and I would very much like to achieve something in this area while I'm here.
Děkujeme moc a nyní máte prostor vy studenti se zeptat na dotazy, které vás zajímají.
Jak dlouho jste velvyslancem v České republice?
I have been here for 2 years. I arrived in October 2020 in the midst of the COVID pandemic. For the first 6-8 months, it was very difficult to do something, and I couldn't go very much outside. Very difficult to have meetings. Let's say from June 2021, gradually I could resume my functions, and I had a lot of very useful discussions with political leaders or industrial leaders, and as I said, traveled a lot, and I think my 2 years here in Czech Republic has been very, very fruitful and rich in new discovery experiences. This visit here today is one of them, and I'm looking forward to, for the rest more of my stay here to have even more such discoveries, sometimes surprises, and, but I really like this kind of surprises. Please.
V jakých zemích jste jako velvyslanec působil?
You said you've been an ambassador in many countries.
Well, as ambassador, Czech Republic is not the first country, but I served in the past in many countries. I started my career in Paris, in the embassy. And then I did kind of going back Tokyo and foreign postings. But in terms of foreign postings, I have been to United States, in Washington D.C., I went to Vietnam, in Hanoi, and also in Korea, Seoul, and then here, Czech Republic, Prague, as my first ambassadorship. Every posting was a very exciting one, and it's a privilege to be a diplomat, whether you're ambassador or not. To really, as I said, to feel the feeling, to feel the feeling, to feel the atmosphere, to really to listen to the people and experiencing the society. For example, when I was in Washington, I had my kids with me, and they were commuting. They were enrolled in the local schools, in American schools, completely different from Japanese school in terms of organization, in terms of school life, in terms of school lunch, completely different. Contrary to what I have mentioned before, there are much more involvement of the parents in the American schools than the Japanese schools. In the Japanese school, we tend to really to put the kids in the hands of the teachers, and parents are not supposed to be so much involved in the everyday life of the school. There are annually 2 or 3 meetings of Parents and Teachers Association, but basically that's all, especially in the public schools. Private school may be a little different. But in America, there are so many activities, school activities, and parents are supposed to participate actively. And parents even take holidays or leave during weekdays to participate in the school activities. And the more you participate in school activities, you're considered an active, good citizen. This is very different. So this is just an example, but you can really find that, well, this helps you to get out from the kind of unilateral thinking, to respect others, to think that there are different ways to live a life. And this is something that I really appreciate. So I think that these postings are really my treasure, so to say, and opening up perspective and vision. So I really encourage you to engage, not necessarily in diplomacy, but in this kind of activities that brings you to another horizon.
Co vás v Česku nejvíc zaujalo?
Well, again, history. I'm a history lover, and when I was a student, I really asked myself if I was really going to diplomacy or maybe become a historian. So history is my hobby. It's my kind of second passion. And so, as I said, Czech Republic, as you can see here, with this very majestic picture behind you, had a long history behind and this is you can understand when you visit the Czech cities or Czech villages. You have preserved a lot of traditional folklore. When you go to even to a very small town, you have castle, frat, zamek. You have a church. You have the square, the namaste. Very different each other, but each of them is very inspiring, with the inscriptions of the kind of historical background of these buildings or these castles. I really love to read this and to reflect and to imagine what would it have been in this night hall of this castle? What happened? What was the expression of each person involved in this historical event? So this kind of imaginative exercise is something that I really enjoy in Czech Republic, everywhere. I think there's, yeah.
Jsem chtěl optat, jak vypadá politická situace mezi Japonskem a Čínou.
What is the situation between Japan and China?
Well, I think that, China has developed quite rapidly its economic power. It's the kind of central pillar in the whole economic and trade system and in the Pacific region and even global systems. They are more confident, they are more assertive, and based on this economic power, the military build-up, the Chinese military build-up is just formidable. In the past decade, they have increased their military expenditure almost 10% a year, which is formidable. And their activities are becoming very, very, so to say, assertive and much more extensive. So, of course, there is tension. I don't want to hide it. There is tension. One acute example is what is happening over the Senkaku Islands in the very southwest of Japan, close to Taiwan. And it's a Japanese territory island, but China is claiming that it's their own. They are sending almost every week, if not every day, government ships, Coast Guard ships, sometimes even Navy ships, to assert their pretension. And of course, we want to defend our sovereignty. We want to defend our national interests. So the Japanese Coast Guards try to repel them, try to warn them that that they are entering the Japanese waters, so you have to go back. But of course, they are not going back so easily. So this is creating a lot of very dangerous tension. Unfortunately, because of all these things, the feeling of the Japanese people toward China is rather very unfavorable. Having said that, we are neighbors. We cannot move out. They will not move out. So we have to find a modus vivendi. We have to really deploy diplomacy to control the situation. No one wants war in this region, so we have to control. So in Jakarta, during the G20 meetings, it was in October, November, sorry, I don't remember exactly, but in the G20 meetings, our Prime Minister Kishida and President Xi Jinping have met for the first time in 3 years. For 3 years, they haven't met. But we are trying to find out the ways of living together in a peaceful way. This is where my colleagues in Beijing or in Tokyo are really focusing their efforts, their diplomatic efforts. We haven't yet found a kind of solution, a miracle solution, but continuing this kind of discussion is, I think, what we can do now and what is most important. And I hope that the relations will improve. We can find the way to solve these issues. I won't be over-optimistic about that, but we have to try.
Děkujeme vám za vaše příspěvky a nastal čas, abychom se s vámi rozloučili. Vážený pane velvyslanče, vážení hosté, milí studenti, děkujeme vám za příjemnou diskuzi a čas, který jste tu spolu s námi na magistrátu strávili. Děkujeme a budeme se těšit na viděnou někdy příště.
Thank you very much. It was a very exciting experience for me too, and so I hope that this could be a very good opportunity to develop relations. I think that we have to follow up with David about that, and please come to Japan. It's seeing is believing. Feel the heart of the Japanese. We have waived every restriction related to COVID. You can go to Japan without any visas or any kind of tests if you are vaccinated 3 times. So it's really time to go, and I hope that this will be a wonderful experience for you. Thank you very much.